So as we examine real market needs, there's some critical questions that are aligned with satisfying those needs. We want to think about, why would a customer need my product or service? What's the best way to assess their needs? What features are important? Why does my solution fit better than the current and future offerings? And what should I charge? So the economic feasibility of your product is one of the first things that I try and work with students to explore. It doesn't take long to get to the conversation of, how do you make money? How do you generate income? What is the ballpark of revenues and expenses, at least by category, that you're considering? So over-designing your product can be a large pitfall to doing that. You might end up with a product that no one is willing to buy because of the price. We also want to think about keeping production costs manageable and volume appropriately high to have that good economic flexibility and balance. We also want to think about the concern of, if something is very expensive and there are not many people that want it, is it going to be unprofitable? So again, a critical question to answer. We want to understand that before we build it. So when you think of vehicles and segmentation, this was the original Tesla vehicle, the Tesla Roadster. A $109,000 vehicle when it came to market in 2009, and not for everyone. Not a lot of people can afford $109,000. Not a lot of people want a two-seat vehicle. Not a lot of people want an all-electric vehicle. So they're not trying to serve everyone, but they've carved out a niche, and they carved out a competitor in the context of Ferrari and Porsche and the other high-end sports car markets that they've elected to pursue in the beginning. So this is where they started. At the same time they were doing this, there were other solutions in the electric vehicle market. So the Chevy Volt came to market soon thereafter. Different category, different price point, different technology, different market, still had the electric and the hybrid electric elements to it, but a different solution for a different customer with different needs and wants. A third element are the very small vehicles that are only legal on highways with a speed rating of 35 miles per hour or less. Different market, different purpose. Still all electric, but perhaps more oriented towards resort communities, or the golf course communities, or campuses, or golf courses, or theme parks. So a variety of other markets, different needs, different wants, similar technology in a broad category of electric vehicles, similar purpose of getting me from A to B, but a different approach, a different need that they're fulfilling. And all three of these companies may be successful doing what they do, but they've picked a segment, and they've picked a purpose, and they've drilled in and focused on the needs and wants of a certain type of customer. So that's what we want to do as entrepreneurs. The second iteration of the Tesla was the sedan. Bigger market, lower price point, competing here against Mercedes, BMW, etc. Your first product is not your last product. Why didn't they come out with this first? Well, a high price point vehicle is probably going to be more profitable. It also sets an element of brand, and it sets the element of being a performance car company, and that's perhaps easier to do with a sports car than it would have been for a sedan. So great marketing, but also great technology, and focusing on a different segment and a different market. So we want you to be honest with yourself about competing products, and also be data driven. Don't just assume that a competing product is poor for one reason or another. Look for research. Look for survey feedback. Try and get some quantitative understanding of what the gaps are and what gaps you can fill. We also want to recognize that you're not overly optimistic. We want you to be optimistic, but we want that to be moderated by some level of data and some level of insight and expertise. And we want you to do a fair evaluation of what's out there. What are the strengths and weaknesses of competitors, and what are the strengths and weaknesses of the solution that you have in mind? We want you to use your relationships and think about your social networks. Think about your friends and your family and customers and competitors and others that you might have some affiliation with that can give you some real insight. We want you to understand the marketing and selling process. To be successful, you need to recognize that the best marketed products often win. It's not simply the best products. And we want to think about the aspect of personal selling and pricing and the role that that plays in new venturing. So as an entrepreneur, you may not only be the inventor and the innovator, you might be the head salesperson as well. And that success depends on pricing in many times. And recognizing all of the associated costs, it's not only a manufacturing cost. It's cost of design and marketing and other elements that you've got to factor into your pricing. You've got to understand the difference between fixed and variable cost. And we'll talk about it a little bit later in the capstone course that we do. We also want to think about financials and competitors' financials. And we'll talk about that a bit later too in our new venture financing course. We want to be aware of underpricing our product. We want to estimate volume and think about volume and match that to what we think the market is going to bear and be sure that we're being mindful of the price of competing products and that if it's going to take us a little bit of time to get to market, the price of competing products may change as well. And in this context, we don't want to underprice to the point that people are aware of our quality. If we're offering comparable features or even better features than competitors, it's okay to price near them or just below them or maybe just above them if you have a superior feature set. But don't feel that just because you're new, you need to be dramatically cheaper. It might induce some level of thinking that you're worse in the mind of customers. So in summary, why would customers need your product? What's the best way to assess those needs? What features do they care about? And talking to them early, very early in the process, gives insights on that. We want to think about how your product fits and why is it better? And do you have some data out there that identifies the gaps of competitors and that it's not only your personal opinion? And pricing. Beware of underpricing. Also beware of missing what some of your expenses are going to be. You don't think beyond just the manufacturing cost of your product. What's it going to cost to market it? What's it going to cost in your distribution and supply chain? What's it going to cost in overhead to really support that and have customer service or other elements that you may need as well? So broadly, think about all of these questions as you're examining how to bring the product to market.